On April 19th, 2026, a man named David Wilcock sat down in front of a camera for what would be his final YouTube livestream. He had 511,000 subscribers. He had spent decades writing books and making videos about UAPs, ancient civilizations, and the possibility that humanity was on the edge of something transformative. His final words to his audience included this, quote, "I'm excited to be here. Every day that I have on Earth is a gift and a blessing. And I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing." The next morning, he was gone. Also this week, the FBI formally announced it is spearheading the effort to find connections between more than 10 dead or missing American scientists and government researchers with classified access to nuclear and aerospace programs. The House Oversight Committee launched its own formal investigation and demanded briefings from the Pentagon, the Energy Department, NASA, and the FBI by April 27th. And Mars, the planet we've been pointing telescopes and rovers at for decades, quietly handed us the most diverse collection of organic molecules ever found on another world, including one that is structurally similar to the precursors of DNA. Also this week, the President of the United States signed an executive order opening a federal pathway for psychedelic drugs, with Joe Rogan standing behind him in the Oval Office. 2 X-class solar flares erupted from the same sunspot this morning, 7 hours apart, knocking out radio signals. A Harvard astronomer published a paper arguing that the interstellar object moving through our solar system is accelerating in ways that gravity cannot explain, and that the geometry of its jets may be the reason. And a man named Jay Stratton, who ran the United States government's secret UFO program known as UAPTF, or the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, for 16 years, is publishing a book this year. Welcome back to Infinite Rabbit Hole.
Imagine that this line represents the time, present 1985, future, past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else.
What's up, everyone? I'm Jeremy Socha, and you're listening to The Infinite Rabbit Hole, your weekly briefing on the unexplained. Tonight, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jake and CJ, and we have got an episode that, in a lot of ways, is the payoff for 4 straight weeks of coverage. If you haven't been following since episode 270, I'd go back and start there because what we're talking about tonight has been building for a while. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcast. It genuinely helps more people find the show. You can find us on InfiniteRabbitHole.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, we need your help. Last week, we were at 946 subscribers and only 54 away from our first 1,000. We have been pushing hard, and every single subscriber matters. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button now. Let's get there together. A couple of quick announcements before we dive in. First, on Saturday, May 9th, I'll be at Capcom, the Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin at the Radisson Hotel and Conference Center. I'll be on the UFO, UAP, and CE5 discussion panel alongside the likes of Ian DeGraff, Zach Screed, and Dustin Schuda, with Jeff Finnup as our host. Use code RABBITHOLE at checkout for 10% off your tickets. And second, I'm incredibly excited to announce that my book, UF Elmwood, is officially available for pre-order and releases on May 4th, 2026 on Amazon. This has been a long time coming, and I cannot wait for you to read it. Search either Jeremy Socha, S-O-C-H-A, or UF Elmwood, or simply just click the link in the description. Jake, CJ, what's up, gentlemen?
What's up, brother?
I bought a boat.
You did.
I bought a boat, and I hit up Jeremy, and I told him, hey, I bought a boat. And he said, a fishing boat? I said, yeah, a fishing boat. And I said, who's down for some Lake Pepin monster hunting?
He did.
I'm just saying it would be pretty cool if Jeremy and I got inside of a boat, went to Lake Pepin, and just kind of hung out for the day and just recorded what we recorded, see what happens.
Monster of the Northern Mississippi.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be us.
I mean, it's
No.
only it's only like an hour away from us.
Yeah.
45 minutes an hour. So yeah,
Just know if I disappear, I'm not suicidal.
that's right. I'm also not suicidal, but I am
But
crazy.
I could be eaten by a lake monster.
No, you know what's
That's
going
right.
to happen? Jeremy's going to have to piss and go over to a tree, and then next thing you know, we're going to see blurry photos of Bigfoot sightings at Lake Pepin.
That's right. It's gonna be like, that is the hairiest Bigfoot ass I've ever seen.
Like, well, it is what it is.
It is. No, I'm pretty stoked. Yeah, we're not recording on our usual schedule. Didn't work out for us yesterday, but yeah, trying to do it a little bit earlier. That's why I got light coming through my windows and stuff. But so I can get out and do date night with my wife because it's a Saturday.
Aw,
I
that's
even
cute.
shaved my chin for her. Just not a
Ooh.
crazy looking mustache.
Jeez.
It's called love.
Well, that's adorable, man. I'm proud of you.
I'm having a Saturday myself. I drank a cup of Death Wish coffee and promptly took a nap
Nice.
and woke up to Jake messaging Jeremy on Facebook, and then my mom immediately called. So
Isn't that
it's been
fun?
interesting.
Drinking caffeine and then sleeping afterwards. You get some
Dude.
crazy dreams.
I don't think I did any dreaming. I'm so caffeine addicted that it doesn't matter. I can just pass right out. Like I have so much of it in my system. When I die, I will show up to work for the next 3 days. Like,
Good on you. Good old company man right there.
oh, my body's just like, I know the routine.
Yeah, I feel that.
Well, here's my book. Look at it.
It's very
Look at
pretty.
it.
It's all glossy.
This is the proof copy, so it's not for resale.
What's it taste
But
like?
Actually, the copy that's going to be for sale will not be glossy. It'll be matte.
Yeah,
but
I
that
thought he
doesn't
was
answer
gonna
the
say
question.
It tastes like grape or something.
Right.
Yeah, I
That's
thought
what
he
I
was
thought was
actually
coming
gonna
to.
Yeah.
tastes like paper.
Huh.
Yeah.
Does it smell good?
Lame.
Give
Oh,
those
it's
pages. Give those pages a good whiff.
Dude, I love the smell of new books.
New book
Is it a
smells
scratch and sniff?
Dude, new book
Mm,
smell is the best smell to ever exist.
It smells like grape.
You scratch it, it smells like an alien's freshly probed finger.
I
smell like booty hole.
Yeah.
All right. You guys ready for quick hits?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Before we get into our main stories tonight, let's run through quick hits, our rapid round of stories from the last week that deserve your attention, even if we don't have time to go deep on them. Let's go. Jay Stratton ran the United States government's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force for 16 years. He led the investigation into the Tic Tac encounter. He was the man who decided to rebrand UFOs as UAPs. He worked at the highest levels of naval intelligence and the Defense Intelligence Agency. And he has publicly said on the record, quote, "I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings." He is publishing a memoir this year through HarperCollins. New coverage this week confirmed that among the experiences Stratton plans to disclose is a personal anomalous encounter he had at Skinwalker Ranch, the Utah property that has been at the center of the U.S. government UAP research since the late 1990s. His publisher describes the book as revealing all that can be lawfully disclosed. That phrase right there, lawfully disclosed. It's doing a lot of work in that sentence, and we will be paying attention when his book drops. Moving on. This happened this morning on the day of this recording, Friday, April 24th, 2026. 2 X-class solar flares, the most powerful category of solar eruption, erupted from the same active sunspot region within 7 hours of each other. The first was an X2.4 and the second an X2.5. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory confirmed both. Radio signals were disrupted across the Middle East at the time of the eruptions. Coronal mass ejections were produced by both events, though early modeling suggests neither is aimed directly at Earth. These are the first X-class flares since March 30th. The sun is active right now, and the region that produced these 2 eruptions is rotating toward Earth-facing position over the next coming days. Only the future knows what that means for us. Moving on. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb published a new paper this week linking two of the strangest things we know about the interstellar object 3I Atlas into a single argument. The first strange thing, the object is moving faster than gravity alone can explain. The second, it has 3 jets of material shooting out from its surface, separated from each other by exactly 120 degrees, a precise geometric arrangement that Loeb argues is statistically improbable as a random natural formation. His paper connects these two anomalies, suggesting the jets may function like thrusters, which would explain the unexplained acceleration. NASA continues to classify 3I Atlas as a natural comet, and most of the scientific community agrees with that assessment. Loeb is a minority voice, but he is a credentialed peer publishing minority voice. And 3I Atlas is now heading towards Jupiter, where it will make its closest approach before leaving our solar system forever. Whatever it is, we're running out of time to truly understand its true identity. Moving on. Physics at Emory University in Atlanta published findings this week in the Proceedings of National Academy of Science, or PNAS, describing something that would have sounded like science fiction 10 years ago. By combining a specially designed neural network with precise 3-dimensional particle tracking inside a dusty plasma environment, they allowed an AI system to analyze the data and identify patterns in a particle's behavior without being told what to look for. The AI uncovered laws of physics that human researchers had not previously written down. Not approximations or known laws, not refinements of existing models, new laws identified directly from the observation. The researchers described it as a step toward using artificial intelligence not just to analyze data, but to discover the fundamental rules that govern how matter behaves. This is a different kind of tool than anything we have built before. Moving on. 2 things this week encrypted in high strangeness lanes. First, 2 overnight workers at an industrial plant in Tabler Station, Berkeley County, West Virginia, reported a Class A Bigfoot sighting to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization at approximately 1:30 in the morning. While loading rail cars, they looked toward a lit building in the distance and saw a large bipedal figure moving in a way that stopped them both cold. The report was filed by the girlfriend of one of the witnesses. BFRO Class A means a clear sighting where misidentification of the subject is considered unlikely. It's the highest credibility classification in their system. And second, if you're a Small Town Monsters fan, like I am, and if you're listening to this show, there is a reasonable chance you are. Mark April 28th on your calendar. That is when Seth Breedlove's new documentary, From the Beyond, High Strangeness in the Bennington Triangle, drops on Apple TV, Prime Video, and Google Play. It covers the unsolved disappearances on Glastonbury Mountain in Vermont, the phantom lights, the strange creatures, and the question that nobody has been able to answer. Why does that particular patch of land keep swallowing people whole? Rue Morgue ran an exclusive clip this week, and it looks like classic Small Town Monsters. If you're listening to this episode on the day it was published, today is the day, and go check it out. Jake, CJ, the former government UFO program director, saying he's seen non-human craft and non-human beings. 2 X-class solar flares this morning. An interstellar object with impossible geometry heading out of our solar system. An AI discovering new laws of physics. A Class A Bigfoot and a Bennington Triangle documentary on the same day this episode publishes. What are your thoughts on these topics?
I think the one that surprises me the most is the AI model. Not that it surprises me, I just think it's cool. I think it's interesting to get something to point out stuff that maybe we aren't seeing, so we have a different way of looking at things and starting to explore new ideas to explain how things work.
I desperately was looking for more information on this, but this was a brand new topic when I wrote the script, so there wasn't a ton on it. I would expect that next week I'll be able to have a little bit more, but yeah, I agree, man. It's pretty cool idea or application for AI. I like that.
And the other thing is the general saying that he's seen spacecraft and aliens. Why is it okay that he says that, but if you or I say that, they put us on medication?
Well, now he wasn't a general. He's actually a civilian.
Why'd you call him a general?
Did I?
Did I mishear you?
Yeah, because you're crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
just
Maybe I do need medication. All right.
I
Mhm.
I just control F'd my script and looked for the word general. Not once does it show up.
I could have swore that you called him a general, or maybe I don't know. I don't know what's going on
No,
in my life. I'm
no.
still half asleep. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, well, maybe you should wake up. You know,
I'm trying.
stop
I'm
doing
trying.
that.
But
No, his
anyway,
name.
hold on. If he's not even a government official, then why?
You probably thought that because he said he worked at the highest levels of national intelligence and defense intelligence agency, you probably heard highest levels and brain clicked over to general.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably right. That makes sense.
Just like when you forgot your password and you couldn't sign into your AI.
Yeah. The password that I never made. I don't have passwords for any AI model. But
I'll give the background on that once CJ's done
fuck
talking.
that. Who
I am.
cares? I read none of your comments. The only reason I saw that one's because Jeremy showed it to me. Anyway, but it just seems strange that, like, if Jake, you or I were to come out and be like, I saw an alien and I've seen alien beings, everyone would be like, you need professional assistance. But like somebody else comes out and says the same thing, and everyone's like pointing out, like, see, now we know it's true. It's like, all right, that's fine.
It goes with the credibility and the positioning. So if I say it as just a guy who likes motorcycles, crazy mustaches, fishing boats, and freaking, things like that, they're going to be like, you're an insane person. But a guy who's running the Naval Intelligence and Defense Intelligence Agency, there's a little bit more weight. But I do like how he said he's did it for, 16 years or 18 years. So that means that 16 years. So that means that prior to the disclosure time frame where we've been at, say for the last 6 years or more, prior to that, when the government told you that you were full of crap and that you didn't know what you were talking about when you saw a UFO, just know that they thought that it was a legit enough thing to be funneling tax dollars into it. So keep that in mind the next time you think that the government wouldn't lie to your face.
Hell yeah, good point. Good point.
I'm very far from a bootlicker, and I definitely go for small government and less taxes because, I don't trust anybody.
Listen,
Works for the government,
Jay,
not fully.
when this book comes out from Jay Stratton, I'm going to be all over it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going to order it the day it comes out. I'm going to read it because I followed him quite a bit. He was the first time I ever ran into Jay Stratton. I actually ran into a pseudonym of his that was used by the authors James Lakatsky, Colm Kelleher, and George Knapp in the book Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Now, this is the sequel book, if you will. It's not a direct sequel, but to the book Hunt for the Skinwalker, which is this one right here. Okay, this is the book for Skinwalker Ranch, right? If you need a book that's going to teach you anything and everything about Skinwalker Ranch, it's that book. And Colm Kelleher and George Knapp did this book together a long time ago. I think I got this book back in 2008 or 2009. And then they came out with the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and Jay Stratton was actually, you're going to love the pseudonym. Ready? He was referred to as Jonathan Axelrod. Gotta love it. And the stories that took place regarding Jonathan Axelrod in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon are fucking crazy. It's wild. Like the specific blurb that I put into the script about his encounter at Skinwalker Ranch is nuts. And then on top of that, there's also a strong case for the hitchhiker effect. If you guys aren't familiar with that, people who show up or do anything on Skinwalker Ranch have things follow them home no matter how far they are. And Jay Stratton, I believe, was in Maryland at the time. He was living in Maryland while working in DC for the UAPTF, and which eventually became OSAP, and then which gave birth to ATIP, which is now OSAP is ARROW, right? The All Domain Anomalies Resolution Office. he went out to Skinwalker Ranch. Something happened out there to him. And when he came back to Maryland, not only was it him, but also his family members, his wife and kids were having issues with this as well. Something followed him home. And this is a well-documented issue with people who visit Skinwalker Ranch and do research there. So he was first talked about in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, and then he made another appearance in a book that took basically the UFO community by storm last year, and that is Lou Elizondo's Imminent. Now, he was actually referred to as Jay Stratton in this book, and it wasn't until I read this book and I was like, there's a lot of really similar incidents in here compared to this one. Did some research, found out they're the same person. So when if you have read these two books, Jonathan Axelrod and Jay Stratton, his real name, are actually the same person. So I don't know how many people have connected the dots on that, but they are the same person. You can now look it up. It's been confirmed that Jonathan Axelrod was a pseudonym used for Jay Stratton. And from what I understand, the stories that are in Imminent and Skinwalkers at the Pentagon is a precursor to the real stuff that Jay Stratton actually has to unveil. And it's going to be wild. I can't wait.
I'm going to need you to change your book and change my name to a pseudonym for Bob Wienerschlong.
I got you in the next one.
Bob, in parentheses, Dick Wienerschlong.
Okay. God.
I don't buy the whole everything with Skinwalker Ranch. I'm pretty sure that like none of that is anything that they actually report, and that it's just tulpa stuff.
I actually disagree. We could talk about it a little bit after the episode.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that
He's a Skinwalker Ranch boy.
I think maybe something happened there, or maybe like 2 or 3 things happened, but like just the mass grouping and everything and the variety of things that happen in the exact same area, I'm pretty sure it's just tulpa stuff. But
I think we've had this conversation before. I think you've always been critical of Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
I'll tell you, man.
I've never given Skinwalker Ranch any kind of credibility just because of how touristy it is.
You need to read a book. What is the name of that book? It's called The Utah UFO Display by Frank Salisbury. Or read a synopsis of it. Everything that takes place in that book happens before the phenomenon of Skinwalker Ranch, and it's from the Uinta Basin.
If it's on audiobook, maybe I'll listen to it, because I listen to audiobooks while I'm driving the truck and sleeping isn't an option.
Yeah, here it is. The Utah UFO Display by Frank Salisbury, PhD, by the way.
Can I get that on audiobook?
I don't know, but it's a really, really interesting book. And although this is a rewrite of it, right? So this is republished. The original version of this book came out in 1974. So in 1974, all the stuff that you hear coming from Skinwalker Ranch and the surrounding areas, this book highlights all of that stuff already happening in the area.
You said it's called the Utah UFO Experiment?
The Utah UFO Display. Very, very good book.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can get it. I can get one called UFOs Over Utah.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a podcast. Oops, never mind.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like that audiobook is available. Unfortunate.
I don't doubt it. I mean, it's a highly research heavy book. So
you'd be surprised what you can get on
well, you have to have a really big name, and Salisbury is a big name, right? But he's not John Keel. Like, you could find John Keel stuff on audiobook. You could probably find man, I don't know who else you'd be able to find on audiobook.
Well, I have like 3 or 4 different places to look for audiobooks, because some places have stuff, other places don't.
Mm-hmm.
Some places are free, you just have to put up with ads or whatever. And they all like have, like, the one is really, really good for obscure stuff. So I might have to just check that one.
Yeah. I mean, check it out. The book is great. And if you have any questions about Skinwalker Ranch and its legitimacy, this book does a good job, because it mentions the general area that Skinwalker Ranch is in, but never once mentions Skinwalker Ranch because it's too early. right? Skinwalker Ranch wasn't Skinwalker Ranch. Didn't have that name. Everything that happened on that property didn't happen until after this book came out.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Like, I've actually done pretty heavy research into Skinwalker Ranch over the years, especially when I first heard about it. And I'm pretty sure it's just Tulpa stuff. And then, like, it's sort of like an effect, right? Like, for an example, we had in our area, one person reported that they saw an eastern mountain lion. For those of you who don't know, the eastern mountain lion is extinct. It doesn't exist. They claimed it was. And then there was this office who followed up on that, sort of like an office building of people who one person heard that story and claimed they started seeing it. And all of a sudden, all of those office workers in there started seeing it. And when they came out to investigate, it was just a really fat house cat that was living in the field behind the building.
Hell yeah, man.
So
we got fat house cat.
It was just a big fat house cat. Like, so like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I maybe somebody saw something there. I'm not saying that nothing ever happened there. What I am saying is I don't buy that the volume of things and the diversity of things happened there. You know, I just feel like that's one of those things where like everybody wants to be part of the story in some capacity. So that's what they do. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, man, I'm quick to say, okay, this sounds sketchy, this sounds weird, but with the amount of research that I myself have done into Skinwalker Ranch, I can tell you there is something going on there. Could it be Tulpa? Could be, but I highly doubt it.
Wait, like, you know how tulpas are made though, right? Okay. Well, at least, okay, for Jake's sake, how tulpas are lore-wise made. So
Magic smoke.
no,
It's a thought experiment.
That's tulpamancy. Tulpamancy is just human beings giving themselves psychological conditions intentionally. It's like a form of schizophrenia. Nobody wants to admit that. It's really not great. But they just induce a mental disorder. But like a tulpa, if you have enough people that have a strong enough emotion about a thing, it can manifest based on that energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very vague and broad explanation. Tibetan monks do it a lot. Supposedly there's a huge practice out there where they do them, and it's a very diverse thing. But the idea is if you have enough people that believe in the same thing or have a strong enough emotion about the same thing, then it can manifest. But it's not a physical thing, right? Like, so anyways, that's what I think. I think somebody saw something up there. The story spread. Maybe a couple other people saw something similar, but the diversity of, you know, paranormal and otherwise that goes on there doesn't line up with most other paranormal and supernatural sites, right? Usually, like, you get a thing in a spot, not the San Francisco Zoo's worth of things in one spot. That doesn't normally happen.
I think that's some of the best evidence that it has for it. I mean, Mount Shasta is the same way. Dulce, New Mexico, although it's most famous for a secret underground military base, it also has a lot of the same stuff. And then you go to Stardust Ranch, Bradshaw Ranch, the Meadows.
Yeah, but if Skinwalker Ranch, that the landmass only encompasses a few square miles, right? Like, it's not like a massive.
It's 170 acres. I think.
Well, how many miles is it? Like I said, it's only a few square miles. It's not like it's a big piece of land, but it's not like an entire mountain. It's not a whole city. It's not a whole state. You know what I mean?
It's 4,700 acres.
That's a lot. Well, how many square miles is
Square miles is, in terms of square miles.
See, that's a very small area to have a density. What are they having? Like, cryptid Woodstock? Like, what's going on over there? Like, that doesn't make sense.
So I think, okay, we're not gonna burn this entire episode on Skinwalker Ranch.
I could.
I could too, trust me. It's you have to know the background to it, and it all stems from the Navajo and Ute tribes, and that's where I'm saying it could potentially be something along the lines of a tulpa, because they had those strong lore about the skinwalkers, or as they called them, the Yi Nalushi, in the area. and this was an area that was basically the line between two tribes, and those areas were also known for their sensitivity to the veil, if you will, right? The membrane between worlds, right? Layers of or planes of existence. That's all I can really say is if you believe in tulpas, right, and how these two warring tribes had this belief of the Navajo and their skinwalker, or the Yi Naulushi, but they also had a strong belief system in planes of existence. And this area right here really opens up the idea of different planes of existence. And if you could take all of the weird stuff that happens there and you can answer every single one of them by saying that this is an area where two planes of existence overlap, and just like John Keel's window areas, right? This is a perfect example of that, where these existences bump together and create a window. You have literal portals that get mentioned by multiple people. And if you cannot say that the other world, the other plane of existence, doesn't have all this stuff that we see. We see it as weird, but it may be perfectly normal there. But it's bleeding into our world at that location. I mean, there's a lot of explanations here, and I'm being very vague on this because I don't want to get too deep into it. We're already 35 minutes into this recording, and we're not even in briefing 1 yet. So
I'm pretty convinced by Kat's a skinwalker. I'll ask her and get back to you.
There you go. That'll do. All right, Jake, you bored? Yes.
What's up with this 3-eye atlas thing?
What about it?
It's
Comet?
got jets coming off of it?
Yeah, so it's got 3 tails, right? That's basically the gist of it, is that it has 3 tails, and they're both, all 3 of them are exactly spaced out 120 degrees away from each other.
Weird.
Yeah, it is. It's very weird. There was a lot of weird things about 3-eye atlas that we saw. The composition of it, the fact that it had an anti-tail when it was near the sun, when it was at its periphelion. Anti-tail meaning that the tail was facing towards the sun, unlike other astral bodies that we see or have recognized where the tail faces away from the sun. Very, very, very strange things. It also came in perfectly on the elliptical plane, or the elliptic plane, which is the plane that all of the solar system bodies, every planet sits on. So if you have the sun at the middle, every single planet, including the asteroid belt, the Oort cloud, everything, they all are on a flat plane, and they're all on the same degree around the center hemisphere of the sun. And it came in perfectly on that same exact plane. The likelihood of that is damn near impossible. And it's making such a close pass to Jupiter, our largest non-solar body, non-star. It's making such a close pass that it's going to drastically change its direction due to gravitational pull. This sounds like, it really does sound like it was something that was created by intelligent design, came in perfectly on the elliptic, or came within the perfect amount of space to our largest body, planetary body, and used it to slingshot it in the direction it wants to go. It's crazy. And then, not to mention, it passed by the backside of the sun, like its periphelion. The closest it gets to the sun was when the Earth was perfectly on the other side of it. So if it knew that there was an intelligent species here in this solar system, the best thing it could do to block its existence is to get on the other side of this of the star at the middle of the system. I mean,
tried to find some images of it just now, but I couldn't find anything outside of artist renditions.
So
shocking.
It's a huge issue, is because when they said that they were going to release all the images of 3-eye atlas, right? And there are some images out there, but they're not very good.
They're blurrier than Bigfoot photos. That's what I saw.
That's what I'm saying. But the fact is that our government went on, they were they were locked out, right? We had the government shutdown.
Yeah.
Right when this happened, right when it was getting closest to Mars, when we were using satellites that we put on Mars for imagery, we turned them towards this 3i Atlas, and they put out this bogus excuse about how, oh, we're not going to release it because the government shut down. The fun fact about that is that these cameras on these satellites that we put around Mars are owned by the University of Arizona. They're not even owned by NASA. Yeah. There's a lot of really, really weird shit about this. And
see, that's the part that I find interesting, because if it's just a comet, why wouldn't you let us look at it? That doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, hey, we have this really cool body moving through outer space. Have a peek, because you're not going to get to see this again ever, and no one else will. To try to hide the photos is interesting.
I think Avi Loeb has a really good point on this. That, I mean, is it extraterrestrial? Probably not, right? But if anything is, this is a pretty good example of what it would look like. Like, this is exactly what it would look like. This looks like it's under intelligent control. It came in under intelligent plans, and it's exiting intelligently and mechanically. And from all the sensors that we know, where we combine different colors that we see on different planets, and we can put together what the atmosphere is like just by looking at different shades of blue or red or whatever. Everything that we know about how colors equal certain elements tells us that the exhaust that is coming off of this is nothing but burned carbon, like the same shit that we would burn. If we, I mean, it's like it's exhaust. It's not ice crystals like a typical astral body, right? It's not particles of rock. Like, it's expelled carbon.
So if we entertain, and I mean, I fully believe in extraterrestrial life, right? But we'll entertain, just for argument's sake, that extraterrestrial life exists, and maybe they sent out, because we've sent probes out of our solar system, right?
Yes, we have.
So let's entertain the fact that maybe somebody else could have done the same. This isn't a question I've ever even wondered about until now, so I've never looked it up or seen articles or anything. But if you had, say that thing was like running on like cold fusion, right? That would be the only way I could really explain that amount of fuel being burned off, right? Without ever running out. But say it's moving through the galaxy. It's like a scientific probe for another civilization. It's just gathering data about other solar systems. What are the chances of like space crud building up onto it and making it look like a big rock, right? Like, because like if we put something in the water, right, it gets like sediment and shit on it. Like, can that happen to things in outer space? Like, as it's passing through like space dust, maybe an asteroid bumps off of it and leaves a deposit behind, and like over time it just builds up. Now it looks like a big rock with thrusters.
Maybe, but I think you can even look at this simpler and just say, hey, if you wanted to send something undetected through another star system, what would you make it look like? Right? Would you make it look like it was manufactured by an intelligent being, or would you make it just look like space debris?
You're not wrong, but like, to launch that off the surface of your planet, if it had a rough surface like that, I don't think it would make it through the atmosphere. Wouldn't the friction of the atmosphere burn it up?
They could have also just fucking, hijacked an actual astral body, comet, asteroid, whatever, and just retrofitted it to be a spacecraft. They could have done everything in space.
It's just an asteroid model rocket, just for the fun.
I'm just throwing it out there, right? I mean, really, if they have the technology to be able to do that.
It was an asteroid that was going to hit their planet, and they what's that movie with Bruce Willis? They went up there and they attached thrusters to an asteroid that was going to hit their planet, just sent it somewhere else. Like, that's someone else's planet.
That's right, with a nuke in the middle of it. And Bruce
you
Willis,
know
his finger on the button.
If that's what they found out, I would buy that explanation. Some alien civilization was about to get blasted by this massive meteor asteroid situation. They went up there, attached thrusters to it, and were like, bye, and just sent it on its way. And now it's just hurtling through galaxies.
All right. We ready for briefing one? Jake, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our first briefing now that we're 45 minutes into this recording. 3 separate lines of Martian evidence landed in the same 10-day window. and I want to put them together because in isolation, each one is interesting. But together, they paint a picture that's hard to ignore. The first, Curiosity used the first wet chemistry experiment, ever performed on another planet to analyze a piece of 3.5 billion year old clay sandstone in a location known as Gale Crater. The results, which were published in Nature Communications, revealed more than 20 organic molecules, which is the most diverse collection ever found on Mars, and 7 of them were never previously detected on Mars. Among them was a nitrogen-bearing molecule structurally similar to DNA precursors and benzothiophene, found in meteorites, thought to have helped seed prebiotic chemistry across the early solar system. The lead scientists said they think they're looking at organic matter preserved for 3.5 billion years. The honest caveat is that the experiment cannot tell us whether these molecules came from ancient life, geology, or meteorites. What it confirms is that Mars had the chemistry, preserved it, and that we now have the tools to find it. The second, a separate study in the Journal of Geophysical Research, found the highest concentrations of iron, manganese, and zinc ever measured together in the same location of Gale Crater, preserved in what was once a shallow lake bed. On Earth, those specific metal deposits form in environments almost always inhabited by microbes, meaning this was most likely a lake that dried up billions of years ago and left behind in its minerals the signature of conditions where life thrives. The third has been building since last summer. Curiosity has been navigating a region of the location known as Mount Sharp, which is covered in enormous spiderweb-like formations called boxwork and interconnected rocky ridges 3 to 6 feet tall that stretches over 12 miles across. In February, close-up images revealed something nobody expected. Tiny egg-like nodules covering the ridges that had never been documented before. The lead planetary scientist said on the record, quote, "We can't quite explain yet why the nodules appear where they do. Those nodules closely resemble structure perseverance found in the Jezero crater, whose origin is also unexplained." The science and technology news website Futurism ran the headline that NASA was running out of non-life explanations. Jake, CJ, 3 independent lines of Martian evidence in the same week, all pointing at the same question. What do you take from all of this Mars news? I know Mars isn't really a really popular topic with you two, so.
Space aids.
Yeah.
Full-blown space aids being launched onto Mars' surface, basically.
That's about what I expected.
Boxwork is cool. I just looked up an image of it. Apparently, it happens here in caves and stuff.
Share with us. Share with the class, Jacob.
Fine.
All the watchers on YouTube want to see that boxwork. Show me your boxwork, bud.
Hey, show us your box, Jake.
Hey, I'm married. Oh, it's funny. So I was over at the Ellsworth Creamery yesterday getting some queso and some chips. And some older guy comes out and he's like, tell me, he looks at my truck. He's like, tell me about your infinite hole. And he kind of looks at me and I said, sir, I would, but I'm married and I don't think my wife would like that too much. And he just starts laughing. He's like, that's a good one. I was like, no, sir, it's called the Infinite Rabbit Hole Podcast. And I had a little chat with him and stuff. And yeah, he kind of agrees with all of us. He says that he believes that that with as infinite as the universe is, that there's no way in his mind that God would only create life on this planet and not other planets as well. I was like, that's a thought for sure. I was like, you're wrong, but yeah. No, it was interesting. But yeah, so this is boxwork. Apparently it's found inside of caves.
It is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's the same shit they found on Mars then?
Yep.
Boxwork is a honeycomb-like structure that forms in fractured or jointed rocks, often with calcite blades.
Pretty neato petito, man, let me tell you.
Neato, petito, burrito.
Yeah.
Something I've always found interesting about the whole Mars thing is that there's like this idea that maybe we populated Mars first and then came here.
Now we got to go back.
Right. The original humans royally fucked up Mars, and that's why it looks the way it does now. And then we just lost all of that while we were here and started over. I always thought that
all
was an
built.
interesting theory.
There's a lot of theories on Mars, man. A lot. I think the most wild one. I think I just said this last episode or the episode before, but the idea that humans actually come from Mars and we fucked it up, just like you said.
Yeah.
And we were like, look, there's Earth over there with all these reptiles on it. Let's go kill them and take their
I wonder
planet.
what they taste like.
They taste right.
The meteor that killed the dinosaurs was the pods landing in the bodies of water and killing.
It was Martian humans nuking planet Earth to get rid of the pesty dinosaurs.
That's right.
Like it's either this way or dirty probe fingers. Which one you want?
You know what? If you were you want to go ahead and probe a T-Rex, more power to you. You know, that's a brave human
I mean,
being.
you were just probing your pet lizard. What's the difference?
I was not probing him. First of all,
I seen it.
First
You
of
were-
all, no, you
you
didn't.
were-
First
First that cloaca.
He was being very good to me. He
I bet he
bites.
loved it.
That animal is not nice. Like, let's get that. Like, he bites. He's a mean son of a bitch. I'm
Unless
actually
you
surprised he
probe
let
him
me.
right.
Yep. Yeah, he's not cool. Most of the time, he actually tried to bite me when I was getting him out of the cage. So I'm trying to make him friendly. It's not going well. It's been like a year and a half.
It's almost like he's a lizard with no feelings or emotions.
Lizards have feelings and emotions. Anyway,
Yeah.
they do. Anyway, but no, like it's just very strange. The thing that I'm worried about is like, say we go back and we get we manage to artificially create an atmosphere. We go back to Mars or whatever. I can barely handle winter here. Winter there is gonna suck way worse.
Yeah, there's
Well, you won't go to Mars, and I won't go to Mars. Neither will Jeremy. They're gonna be like, no.
all right. You guys ready for briefing?
You better go do some push-ups and
Let's-
jumping jacks if you want to go. Like, what are you doing,
Let's-
fat
right.
boy?
Let's
They'll-
make us some time here. Let's get into
Bring
this
us
next one.
to eat us.
All right, we're doing it. Second briefing tonight, and I want to bring this one to IRH with a frame that I think is different from what you've heard elsewhere. On April 18th, President Trump signed an executive order in the Oval Office directing the FDA to fast-track its review of psychedelic compounds already designated as breakthrough therapies, primarily focusing on the psychoactive compounds Ibogaine and psilocybin. The order commits at least $50 million through the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health to match state-level investments in psychedelic research. It creates a pathway for Ibogaine to be administered to desperately ill patients under the right to try law. And it directs the FDA to issue national priority vouchers to specific psychedelic drugs, potentially accelerating their path to approval for years or from years to weeks. Joe Rogan was at the signing, so were RFK, Dr. Oz, and former Texas Governor Rick Perry. Trump joked, quote, "Can I have some, please?" The room laughed. Then they signed the order. The primary focus is veterans and has seen incredible support from the likes of some heavy hitters, such as ex-Navy SEAL Sean Ryan. Since September 11th, the U.S. has lost more than 21 times as many veteran lives to suicide as it has on the battlefield. More than 6,000 veterans take their own lives every year, a topic that Jake and I personally and quite literally witnessed in many cases during our own time in the Navy together. Veterans who have traveled to Mexico for Ibogaine treatment because it's legal there report transformative results. A 2024 Stanford study of 30 special operations veterans with traumatic brain injuries found significant improvement in PTSD, depression, and anxiety after a single Ibogaine session. This executive order is at its core a response to that reality. But here's why I think this story belongs on IRH. The communities that have been talking about psychedelics for the longest time are not pharmaceutical companies. They're the same communities to talk about UAPs, consciousness, and contact experiences, as well as the nature of human perception. The substances now being fast-tracked by the federal government are the same ones that indigenous cultures have used for centuries in ceremonial contexts to make contact with what they describe as other intelligences. Researchers studying near-death experiences, researchers studying anomalous cognition, researchers studying UAP contact phenomenon, all of them have noted that psychedelic experience produces descriptions remarkably similar to what experiencers describe in encounters with non-human intelligence. That may mean nothing. Or it may mean that these substances are opening a door that the UAP community has been standing in front of for a long time. The federal government just decided that the door is now worth opening. So, Jake, CJ, the feds opening a federal pathway for psychedelics. Veterans at the center of it, and the IRH angle being the overlap between these substances and the contact and consciousness research that's been adjacent to the UAP world for decades. What are your thoughts?
I have a lot, so you can go first, Jake.
I also have a lot, so you can go first, CJ.
Okay. For one, I definitely think it's something that should be explored. I myself suffer chronic depression and anxiety disorders, and I've had an interest in attempting psilocybin treatments to try to deal with it. Now, people are gonna cheer this as a reason to not do it, but recently I adjusted my diet to include a healthier range of foods and omega-3 fatty acids, and I'm on a vitamin regimen, and I have not had a depressive order in what is that, spell or whatever, in several months now, but let's not take that as doctrine, because that's not going to work for everybody. That just happens to be working for me, right? I will say that there's ideas that psychedelics will let you contact God and other intelligences. I think it's possible that they distort your perception of reality enough that it may open you up to spiritual experiences and make you open to the idea of them. I don't necessarily believe, though, that people are able to have spiritual experiences just because they've used psychedelics or they've made non-human. I mean, if we want to be very literal, I made non-human contact with a tree using a psychedelic substance back in college. Does that mean it was real? No. There's absolutely no chance that this tree was legitimately talking to me. And it said mean things about my mother at the time. So it definitely
sounds like it was real.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. My point is, though, is I don't think trying to tell people, trying to justify legality based on, hey, you might be able to talk to God or aliens if you drop shrooms or drop acid or something, it doesn't feel like a good argument. Now, I would say, if you're trying to treat something like depression, anxiety, okay, that's a fantastic argument. Hey, we think that this might help with a very serious condition that is literally killing thousands of people every year. Great. Let's go with that. But I don't think, hey, I want to talk to God, so this should be legal. Bro, you can talk to God anytime you want. Read 90% of the religious texts out there. Almost all of them have the same perception of God. You can just talk to them if you want to, or the gods in general, whatever you subscribe to, right? You don't need a substance to do that.
My turn. So, I listen to the Sean Ryan Show podcast. I think Jeremy does as well. I haven't listened to him in a little bit. It's sometimes it's hard to keep track on an episode that's 8 hours long, but he's very open about his Ibogaine experience in Mexico. He says that basically what happened was he experienced an ego death, and then he had kind of he calls it a review of his life, where it was TV screens were passing by him and he was just watching clips of his life and stuff like that. And somehow through that experience, he has gone 2 years completely sober from alcohol. He was drinking himself to death. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe I heard something like a fifth of vodka a night or more, maybe half a gallon a night. Very, very heavy drinker. Did not wean himself off, cold turkeyed it after his Ibogaine experience. No longer wanted to commit suicide. All the self-harm ideations went away. Depression, anxiety went away. Talks about a friend of his who also had an Ibogaine experience that recovered from chronic headaches and had to
Mhm.
use a cane due to an IED incident where it left shrapnel permanently in his body, and I believe the traumatic brain injury that occurred from that caused headaches so bad that he sometimes couldn't go to work, he couldn't leave his house, had to wear sunglasses everywhere, and he left his cane and his sunglasses at the facility when he left after his one Ibogaine treatment. Now, I've never taken psychedelics. I probably wouldn't unless it was under in a medical sort of setting. Um, I also have been working on myself to uh try to get off things like SSRIs due to I think PTSD is too strong of a term, but certainly a lot of anxiety, a lot of waiting for something bad to happen. Like I don't know, I didn't have this before the military, but I've told my guys that when they're a no call no show for work, the first thing I think of is that they're dead. So because that's been the case for 8 instances in my 13 years in the Navy, was
Mhm.
that the reason why they didn't show up is because they were dead, whether that was because of a self-inflicted incident or because of an accident or something like that. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Um, and so I was on SSRIs for a while there. I've recently gotten off of those and have replaced it with dieting, drinking a significantly less amount, and regular exercise and weightlifting. So I'm seeing a lot of improvements there. However, I know that for a lot of people that have been through, combat and IEDs and things like that, and I've served with some of them, that simply dieting, exercising, things like that is a non um it doesn't fix anything, at least as far as mentally goes. You might feel good, while you're doing it, but it doesn't fix anything, right? It's not a treatment, it's just a Band-Aid in the moment as your brain floods with endorphins and things like that from the act of picking up heavy shit and putting it back down. Um, and so I do agree that for some people, Ibogaine, psychedelics, things like that, whatever the thing looks like. Maybe it's ayahuasca or, smoking peyote, I don't know. But whatever that ends up looking like, I think that there are people that will have an extreme benefit in the veteran community. And then going past the veteran community, once, they treat the heavy hitters where the most suicides seem to be occurring, and then getting into the populace in general. But I think this is a great first step. I'm certain that it will be effective for some people, and for some people it might not be, because the brain chemistry of each person seems to be unique. In the same way, my flavor of SSRIs wasn't Jeremy's flavor of SSRIs. I needed something different than he did. It was based off of my physiology, um, and things that happen to me in the bedroom, because SSRIs affect that, things like that. So all different types of things for all different types of people. But I think that this is really cool. I believe that there has been a lot of not peer-reviewed research, but just people that have just been like, screw it, I'm going to Mexico to give this a shot, and it's helped a lot of people. It's good that, I don't know if this is an RFK thing, or if this is just a administration we're in thing, or it's just enough people are talking about it. But for whatever the reason is, I'm glad that it's being looked at as a possible treatment versus just a scheduled drug that needs to be highly regulated. And if you're caught with any sort of ties to it, you get thrown in prison, because that's super inappropriate, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People definitely will do absolutely desperate things once they hit certain breaking points with those conditions. I mean, I'm one of those people, so like it's not unreasonable to just be willing to try anything at that point just to make those feelings go away.
Right. Plus, um, like cannabis, which I've never smoked weed at all, and I don't intend to, but like cannabis, if you run out of weed, you don't break into people's houses for more weed. It is not that type of drug. In the same way, psychedelics are like that. If you trip out too many times, you might have some long-term negative effects. I have people in my family that still can't look at, floral patterns on like wallpaper on a bathroom without it like moving and breathing, and they haven't dropped acid in 30 years, but they did so much back in the day that they think it permanently affected, the way their brain works. And that is something to look at. But those two types of drugs don't cause you to steal people's cars and break into people's houses to get more of those drugs. So
Yeah.
the legality of them shouldn't be treated like heroin or cocaine or methamphetamines, things like that. So I think that when you lump all those things together, it's incredibly inappropriate, and they're definitely making a big step in breaking out of that simple drug classification where everything's lumped together and you get prison time for all of them. Because, it's just,
Well, and who knows, like maybe they're like, if they actually are able to study this closely, they'll be able to find dosages of those drugs that don't cause those permanent lasting
Sure.
effects, So I feel like that's important too, right?
No, of
we're
course.
not here chasing a high, we're here chasing a cure. And
Right. Now,
I agree with you on that though.
regardless of like if it's a DMT trip and people are saying they call them the machine elves, or people are tripping on magic mushrooms and they're having spiritual experiences and things like that. I don't know. Like I couldn't tell you, and like I said, I would have to do it myself to see if anything happened. I was always told at any point in the past when I had the opportunity to take any kind of a psychedelic, I was always told, well, you got to be in the right mind frame. And for that was enough for me to be like, yeah, I don't want this, because I don't want to go through an 8-hour trip where the spiders are crawling out of my skin or whatever, I don't want to do this crap,
From experience, if you're having a bad day, if you're like in like a really depressive mindset and like, you just don't have good feelings about yourself that day. If anybody's wondering, I liked hallucinogens back in college. That was a thing. I enjoyed it. That sounds really, really bad. I haven't done them in many, many years now, but that was the thing that I played with. Everybody.
It doesn't sound bad.
Well, I experimented with hallucinogens in college.
Sure.
And if you are having like a really depressive day, you're having a rough time of it, and you start tripping, you will see horrible, terrifying things, like dragons coming to get you off your ceiling, or being poured into a wine glass and thinking that you're drowning.
Which
Those
is
were
why, for
two
that
experiences that I
circumstance,
had.
dealing with people with extreme PTSD, having this in a medical setting where people are actually monitoring you and checking you're on an EKG, they're checking your, all your vitals and stuff like that. That would be way more appropriate than doing it in a, someone's garage.
Yeah, I also never got my hands on mushrooms in college. I was big on the Salvia divinorum, which was legal for a while. You could just buy it at gas stations and stuff. And the trips are pretty intense. They're pretty insane. So I've never had like any of like the after effects people talk about, where like they don't feel their depression and stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I think salvia is a cannabinoid. Like it's in the same family as cannabis, I think. So it's not like a psilocybin treatment or whatever, but
Sure.
I've always been interested in participating in the medical trials, for psilocybin, just to see, but I don't know. I would be very, very interested. And I super encourage the country to like start doing that, especially if it's going to help people.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
So
And it gets you off of, let's face it, lifelong drug usage. Not, because as far as I'm aware, I gave myself a test just to see what would happen. I have plenty of whatever I was taking, SSRIs, that if I want to go back on it today, I could. And then I just got a call to get a refill. But as far as I know, that's not you outgrow it. You're just on it for forever. So
Yeah.
if we could find a non-prescription way to get off of it that doesn't end in, for a lot of people, a bullet through your head, then that would be the best way to go about it. So I'm stoked that this is something that at least it looks like this administration is willing to open up about. And I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't picked up in the last administration, because it seems like the Democrats are way more into, not restricting drug access like Republicans are. So I'm actually surprised it took so long.
Well,
but I'm glad that we made it.
Medication, medication lobbyists and stuff, right? Their companies don't make money if something cures you.
Well, sure, of course. Right. And so,
all right.
Yeah, no,
So
it's good stuff.
a few things, right? Ibogaine and psilocybin are not the same as acid. So acid, or LSD, right? That's synthetic. It's not natural. Both are psychedelics, and they interact with the serotonin receptors in your brain, but they have different chemical structures, right? They have different effects and even risks. Ibogaine is actually natural, comes from a root bark of a West African plant. I'm not sure what the name of the plant is, but I know it's from West Africa. And during trades in the mid to late 1900s, or even sooner than that, there was this major outsourcing of this plant to South America, and that's why a lot of people will go to Mexico, is because it is abundant there now. Ibogaine is, but Ibogaine is completely natural. LSD or acid is synthetic. It is man-made. It is not found naturally, even though I have had this argument with a lot of people. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you can get it off the acid tree." Like, no, you can't. You
Is
can't.
that next to the hot dog tree?
You can't. You can't just like plant a tab and then go and harvest all the all the little smiley face.
What if there was pulpa for the acid tree? Then
Yeah, let's do that.
There you go. But I'm not going to beat a dead horse and continue on and just reiterate what Jake said, because Jake put it very well. But I will say that I've spent the last almost 5 years now of my life on SSRIs. And it took a long time to find the one that works for me. I think it's been about a year now that I've been on this one, and the side effects are almost worse. If it doesn't work for you, the side effects are almost worse than just not taking anything. I don't know if I'll ever get off of it. I don't know if I ever can, because
If they offered you a chance at doing like a psilocybin trial, would you do it?
Absolutely, 100%. 100% I would. Without question. Be like, Katie, I'm going to go do drugs. Are you back? And no, I would. I would absolutely do a psilocybin trial, or Ibogaine, DMT, all of it, man. I'd do it all.
So the part that was bothering me was that the problems I was having in the bedroom were getting so bad on SSRIs that I said, screw it. I'm willing to take constant anxiety, not being able to sleep, and thinking that something horrible is going to happen to my my wife, over that. And so that's why I tried it out, because it was like, I mean, this is an adult show. Everyone knows the term whiskey dick, right? You drink too much, stuff doesn't work. Imagine that every single time. And that's what I was getting with every single SSRI I tried. And it was making me insane. And so I was like,
crazy.
I would rather be super stressed out, anxious, and thinking that something bad's going to happen, something terrible, every single time my wife stops to like go to the grocery store. She doesn't text me immediately when she gets out. I would rather go through that than deal with that. And so that's why I decided to start working on trying to change stuff. Now, I will say that with my diet and all that sort of stuff and working out, I still sleep like garbage, and I still have anxiety, and I'm nervous. Well, I'm just nervous like constantly. So it didn't fix those things, but I've found a good even mediator. Now, under specific circumstances and things like that, like a medical setting where people are watching me, and I'm not gonna like, if the trip gets too bad, just knock me out, right? I think I'd be willing to give it a shot too, but it would have to be very specific and stuff like that. Because in my mind, I wouldn't be any worse off than I am right now. But yeah, it's just like, so I'm not saying that I'm not a doctor, and I'm not saying that diet and exercise has just, it's changed me. No, but I am able to function in the bedroom. And so for me, it's worth it for right now.
It's a happy median.
We can legally obtain mushrooms. You can buy them in the pot shops in Jersey. You just got to drive over the bridge.
That's not the same thing.
You
No,
can
there's-
also just
it's
go pick them up
psilocybin.
off a pile of
The
cow shit,
spiders,
too.
the spiders.
Well, no, I'm saying it's psilocybin. Like you can get.
Do you know how much
psilocybin
cow
from
shit we have in Wisconsin?
Oh,
Dude.
lots. I mean, you need certain humidity.
I
We
know,
could literally
I
just
know.
a handful of shrooms and a handful of cheese and just lay out in the field until you had enough. You know?
But yeah, no, like over here in
We
the.
could be super high and super constipated.
Actually, from what I understand, if you do take shrooms, you might want to eat all that cheese. From what I understand, it gives you the shits pretty bad.
Oh,
from
good.
people I
So,
know who
yeah,
have
it's
tried
like,
it.
Even though it's like taking downers and uppers,
Too many
man.
downers. Now you're taking uppers to balance out my downers. Oh, too many uppers. Now I got to take some more downers.
But you can just drive over the bridge. You can buy chocolate bars. The chocolate bar, magic mushroom chocolate bars.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's legal over there. I mean, you can't bring it back. It's not legal to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
like
can.
crossing the border here to go to Minnesota to get cannabis. I mean, it's the same thing.
I mean,
But
I could get somebody to take me there, eat the candy bar or whatever, or however much you're supposed to eat, and then have them bring me back, because it's not illegal to be high, it's illegal to possess, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, like, I could do that, but that sounds like a lot of work, and I don't know if I'd want to go for an hour and a half drive while tripping my balls off.
Might be the move. I don't know.
Or it's like those Minnesotians who come over the border just to get our spotted cow. And we're like, no.
It's funny. Yeah, they come over here to get the spotted cow, and then we go over there to get the cannabis and vapes.
CJ, so you know, spotted cow is a very, very popular beer here.
It's a very
okay. Oh, it's like Yingling over here then, huh?
actually
no,
Yingling
it's-
just opened up for Wisconsin
It
about a
did.
month ago.
It
Yeah.
did.
Tried it
I
yet?
saw that.
Yeah,
Have you had
no,
Yingling
I
before?
used to drink
I've
it when I was shooting. I got
It's
got
one
an
of
empty
two
can right here.
beers. Shit. It's one of two beers I'd actually like. I'm not a beer guy. I don't really like beer, but I will drink a Yingling if it's offered to me.
I love spotted cow. It's so
Spotted
good.
cow's good.
It's so good.
It's a nice full beer. Sorry, Jeremy, I totally cut you off.
I don't remember what I was saying.
Okay, good.
Um,
It probably wasn't important.
Something about
No,
a fistful
probably
of
not.
mushrooms and a handful of cheese.
Yeah.
No, it was about
It's-
spending a long time trying to find the right SSRI that worked for you and that you don't think you're ever going to get off of it.
I don't think I can. I don't. I like if I go a day without remembering to take my pill, I get migraines. I mean, I understand it's just withdrawals and that's temporary and stuff, but I can't go back to the way I was feeling, man. Like I've CJ had a podcast, and I actually came out with my whole story on his podcast.
That's still
One time.
available. That's still you can still listen to it.
I'm sure Philosopha Talk or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I
I brought a co-host on. That was a mistake.
basically February 15th, 2020. I'll never forget that date in my life because, I hate to say it and I don't want to, upset any listeners, but it was so bad for me while I was in the service that was the day that was going to be the end of my life. And a lot of things happened, including, my buddy here, Jake, doing good things like trying to get my mind off of it and helping me get the podcast going and finding a way to actually dive into the things that I love and love talking about, and being able to find people who also enjoy talking about it and not feel so weird and outcasty, if you will, about it, giving me some sort of reason to live. And yes, I am a husband and a father of 4 now. It was 3 at the time. And yes, they were plenty enough to live for. But when somebody is going through that, it's a different situation. It's a different evil.
It's basically their blinders are on. All they can see is the problem. Think of a horse with blinders. They can't see anything else that's good around them. All they can focus on is the problem. And it's
Correct.
super obsessive.
It is. It's really bad. It's to the point to where, I got medically retired from the military, and it stemmed from an incident that occurred that I actually referred to in the script that Jake and I both witnessed while we were in the service. I don't know if we've ever told that story on this podcast, but we'll save it for another time. I'm not going to go into it right now. We're already an hour and 20 minutes into this recording. So, but you know, the whole bit in that script where Jake and I were surrounded by suicides, or, you know, people offing themselves. And that thing that Jake said, you know, when someone doesn't show up to work, the first thing that you just think about, and you can't help it because it was so bad in the military, is that the first thing that comes to mind is they're dead, whether it's self-inflicted or not. So yeah, I get it. And I think that if something like Ibogaine could help me for, you know, not think like that, and I can get off SSRIs by, you know, conducting some sort of Ibogaine trial or even a regimen, you know, I would absolutely do it. I hate that I had to take a pill every single day of my life. I take multiple pills every single day of my life. But I have to. And, you know, I do highly recommend that if anybody does have issues, please look into getting help. It's very important. And that's it. I'm not going to stay on the downer side of this. I mean, we could have fun, joke and laugh and everything, but it is a very serious topic. And just want anybody listening that needs help, please get it. There's a whole plethora of health professionals out there to help you. And if you're a veteran, you need to talk to the VA immediately. And that's all I can say to you. You guys ready to go deep?
Yep, I'm ready to go deep. Deeper than we're already at. Man, we got deep.
I thought we already did the deep. Holy crap.
Nope. All right, let's go deep. This show has been covering the story of dead and missing. There we go. Dead and missing people again. American scientists since episode 270, when the count was only 5. Tonight, I don't want to walk through the cases again. I want to describe what this week actually represents, because something genuinely shifted, and it's worth understanding what that shift means. On Tuesday, April 22nd, the FBI issued a formal statement to multiple outlets, including CBS News, Fortune, Newsweek, and the Boston Globe. Quote, the FBI is spearheading the effort to look for connections into the missing and deceased scientists. We are working with the Department of Energy, Department of War, and with our state and local law enforcement partners to find answers. Prior to that, FBI Director Kash Patel separately told Fox News on Sunday, April 20th, quote, the FBI is going to be spearheading the effort collectively with our partners at the Department of Energy and the Department of War. The FBI is the federal government's primary investigative agency, saying publicly that it is leading a coordinated multi-agency effort to determine whether these cases are connected. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who called the whole thing a crazy conspiracy theory just days earlier, formally launched a committee investigation and demanded staff briefings from the Pentagon Energy Department, NASA, and FBI by April 27th. NASA issued its own statement confirming it is coordinating with relevant agencies. The pushback is also real, and it also matters. A former FBI special agent told News Nation she has taken a pragmatic look at each case and is not buying the conspiracy. A family member of one scientist told the press, quote, people should realize that scientists die and not make too much of this. Skeptic Magazine's editor described the pattern as mystery mongering, data mining, or people searching through biographies for any connection to defense or aerospace and inevitably finding them because those fields touch millions of careers. There was even an article published on Wikipedia titled Missing Scientists Conspiracy Theory this week, which tells you something about the moment we are in. Now, I want to tell you about David Wilcock because I think his death is part of this week's story, even though he doesn't belong on the scientists list. Wilcock was not a government researcher or a scientist. He was a New York Times bestselling author and one of the most prominent voices in the UAP disclosure community with 511,000 YouTube subscribers. His credibility within the scientific community was frequently questioned, and that's a fair thing to include. He also had a documented history of depression and financial struggles that his family confirmed were at the center of what happened. On April 19th, in his final YouTube live stream, he said he was grateful to be alive. Then he said, quote, "Frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. It's a little bit scary." He also said in that same stream, quote, "You don't get to resurrect. If you lay down your life, you're done. So please don't do that." On April 20th, he called 911, spoke about his financial and health struggles, and died at the scene. His family has asked for privacy and has asked that his death become a conversation about mental health care access. I am covering this because it happened and because the IRH audience is talking about it. But I want to be clear. We cannot say his death is connected to the pattern. What we can say is that one of the most prominent media voices in the UAP disclosure community died the same week that story reached the FBI and House Oversight, and that his final public words were about people disappearing. That is the documented reality. Trump's week-and-a-half timeline expires this weekend. Comer's briefing deadline is April 27th. Either something arrives or the non-arrival becomes the story. This show will be here yet again either way. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out to 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. Real people answer the phone and are always standing by to help you. Jake, CJ, FBI officially investigating, House Oversight formally probing, David Wilcock's final words being about people disappearing, and 2 hard deadlines arriving in the next 72 hours. After 4 episodes of the story, where are your thoughts on this topic?
The feds are investigating why the feds are killing scientists?
Yes. Makes sense.
We don't see a... Yeah, that... It's a waste of time. It's a distract. That's a psyop.
The feds are investigating why the feds are killing scientists. Rough.
It's true though. It's a legitimate question. You know, it is. I agree with him.
I think anybody who doesn't think that's a psyop is out of their minds. Like that's like going to your toddler and being like, "Hey, did you color on that wall?" And them going, "Let me get the toddler next door to investigate that for you."
Like, no.
And it just so happened that toddler next door helped them color on the wall too. Like,
yeah, no, this guy said he'll give me his ka-chow if I tell them no.
Yeah.
Ka-chow is Lightning McQueen, by the way. If anybody's
getting
weird about that, it's a joke because kids like Lightning McQueen. Never mind.
Well, they like K-pop Demon Hunters now. Lightning McQueen's out. Saja Boys are in.
Saja Boys are not in.
I'm gonna need you to not disparage the Saja Boys because I kind of like them too.
Do you really?
Dude,
that's
that
weird.
That movie's so good.
I have seen it. I have seen it at least a couple dozen times, and
you have a house full of children. No kidding.
It's really not bad. It's fun, but
my kid loves it. Loves that movie.
Not the Saja Boys, bro. No.
What is it? Oh, I'm getting a Soldier Boy.
K-pop Demon Hunters. It's like the world's most popular kids movie right now.
Jake, don't do it.
You will think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you're
Jake.
not going to like it at all.
It's one of those movies that you don't watch as an adult. Like, if an adult has seen it, chances are they have children in their house.
Yeah, I can't watch this by myself in my living room. Someone will kick open my door and arrest me. I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
No, you should definitely watch it with Whitney if you do. I mean, it's not bad. The music is catchy. Right, the animation's cool as shit. Like, it's really awesome animation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I can't say the storyline's great because I don't think it is. But
it's pretty flat. It's
if you're gonna watch it with the mindset that I'm watching this with a child, you will enjoy the movie.
Oh,
right?
I'll tell you, the kids love it though. Kids get up and they do. As an adult, if you're watching it, it's not going to be great. It's not. But like, if you're like, I'm going to enjoy this with my kids, it's like, it's one of those things you don't fall asleep during. And the benefit to that is if I don't know where my child is inside the house, all I have to do is turn on My Little Soda Pop and he'll come running out of whatever corner he's hiding in. You know? I'll tell you though, it is nice to kind of watch every once in a while because I am a big anime fan, and seeing some of the fight scenes in this are great.
They
No,
are very good.
these girls kick ass. They do, and it's good. But past that, I mean, 90% of the movie I could do without. To be honest with you.
You know, CJ, I'll do the exact same thing in my house if someone plays a like a little section of a line from like Gran Torino. I'll come running in. Gran Torino.
Who's watching that without me?
That's right.
Is Clint Eastwood saying something racist?
Who's watching Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah, but no, but back to I do think it's absolutely insane that the feds are investigating the feds, because we all know what the outcome of that's going to be.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, of course we'll investigate this. We got it.
I never thought about that, but it's very interesting. Well, that sucks. Guess we're
They'll
not
have that
gonna find out
one guy in
anything.
the FBI who has like a high moral code, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, this so and so named guy," and you'll hear "Bow," and next thing you know, he's up on the screen just bloody and on the ground, like, "Oh, he committed suicide." There's a guy with a broom just
Behind
pushing
him.
off
He committed suicide from the back.
He's just in a green screen suit.
He jumped off a roof and landed on some bullets.
That's messed up.
We'll investigate that too.
That's right.
I really don't know what else to talk about with this, but I guess the real thing to talk about here is that this is no longer a fringe subject. This is being talked about everywhere now.
Oh yeah.
Every single mainstream media outlet has talked about it. Website has talked about it. It's popping up on every single social media feed. It's everywhere now. I mean, we've been talking about it for a little over a month, but it is no longer like where fringe podcasters are just bringing up this weird coincidence, right?
Yeah. While fringe podcasters are doing it, they can say, "Oh, look at these crazy conspiracy theorists," and ignore it. But when everybody else starts looking at it, now they have to do something. Otherwise, it becomes obvious they're the ones that did it, even though it's too late and it's already obvious they're the ones they did it.
I will say, I had, you know what? I had a little conversation, if you will, with somebody. I get a lot of messages, right, from people who listen to the show or listen to one show or listen to a clip on YouTube, right, and they'll message me and they'll be like, "You guys are crazy conspiracy theorists and stuff," and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna reply to this one guy and be like, "Hey man, when does it get tiring to find out that all the conspiracy theorists are correct? Like when
Right.
like doesn't that get annoying? Doesn't it just suck that you're like, oh, you're this little snobby nose upturned fuckface saying, you know, like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, man," and then the very next day another conspiracy theory hits the news and you find out that it's true. Like, doesn't that suck? Doesn't that get old? Doesn't that that's the ultimate and one, right? If you understand basketball references.
You actually bother replying to these people?
I don't typically, but sometimes it just gets to the point where it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, seriously.
Honestly, you should just do what I would do. Like when you get one of those messages, you read it, just write "you write" and then hit enter, and then on the next one, just the emoji of the guy going, and send that, and then that'll be the last thing you say. "You write."
No, I usually like to just leave them on red, right? But it's just when people say conspiracy theorists, I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm not a guy that goes completely left field with a lot of the things that I talk about. It's got to have some pretty good evidence to it. I like to talk about things that are out there and to theorize, the possibility of it being true. But when it comes to me getting behind a topic and saying, yes, there is something here, this is it, right? It's got to have some pretty damn good evidence about it, right? Just talking about it with a couple of my buddies on a podcast isn't the same as me coming out and saying, hey, this is fucking true. Specific to this topic right here, right? When we're talking about all these dead and missing scientists, Am I convinced that there's something going on? No. But will I admit that there's a pretty strange coincidence to all this? Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody's going to look at all of this and be like, no, you're just a conspiracy theorist, and not look at the possibility that there is something actually going on, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, smells like a duck, and tastes like a duck, it's probably a duck, dude. And that's kind of where I'm at with this particular subject. But in no way, shape, or form am I a conspiracy theorist with everything else just because I like to talk about Bigfoot and UFOs, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that I believe that the chupacabra is real or Mothman or, that the Nordics are a real alien race that comes here to Earth. I'll tell you, I do believe in Bigfoot, right? I do believe that there are weird anomalies in the sky that we don't know about, but that's pretty much about it. Right? I'm not the 5G thing and all the crazy stuff.
You're not Jeff, is what you're saying.
That's where I'm trying to get to. Is like I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. And
I think the difference between a conspiracy theorist and like you is a conspiracy theorist, they hear something and it's true until proven false, where you hear an idea and you're like, well, let me hear the logic and ideas behind that idea and then I'll come to a conclusion. I don't think that's a conspiracy theorist. That's just somebody who's open-minded and willing to listen.
Someone who has logic and reason in their brain.
Right. I think that's the big difference. Like, I mean, you could call me a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the government. They've done so many fucked up things that if you tell them, you could completely invent something right now and tell me that it's something fucked up the government did, and I will instantly believe you until I find out you've been lying to me, right? But that's because the government has a history of doing fucked up things to us.
What you're saying is you have an affinity for statistics and pattern recognition.
Let me tell you, man. Tell you. Fucking conspiracy theorists.
But no, I get what you're saying, though, for real.
I mean, it's a legitimate story. And I think that there is some weird shit going on. Is the weird shit that there is some government agency or some black ops agency that's killing scientists that study anti-gravity and nuclear power? No, probably not. But I mean, there's enough here to warrant like, hey, man, let's at least kind of just take a look at this. I feel like there's more evidence here than to flat Earth. Like it's, a lot of people, when they know about the podcast I talk about, one of the very first topics they'll bring up isn't aliens or UFOs or Bigfoot. It's flat Earth. And they instantly just think that, oh, because I do this kind of stuff, I'm a flat earther. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Like,
that's right. We're a trapezoid earther.
I think it's a potato.
Yeah. I mean, I like to live in the world where our Earth is taco shaped, and it's filled with goodies.
So like, one side is flat,
yummy, savory goodies.
My Earth has acute and obtuse angles. It is a rhombus. So y'all can suck it if you think the Earth is round or flat.
If you think about it, like, I mean, it makes sense that that's what they would think, because that's like one of the most prominent frontline conspiracy theories right now. You see it in Hollywood and all, and whatever. But
I get it, man. I get it. But like what you were saying, I have looked at the flat Earth argument, and nobody can convince me with the arguments that are currently being made. Trust me, this is going to bring out all kinds of people freaking messaging me being like, oh man, you got to look at why can you see Chicago from across Lake Michigan? Like, dude, you need to knock
just
it
tell
off.
them when they do message you, just say CJ told me to say fuck you. And but I want to. You're not skating past the thing you just said. You don't think that a black ops government agency isn't whacking these people. Let me ask you this: if it's not a black ops government agency, who
They
would
could
care?
just-
Who
they
would
could-
care so
himself.
much? Who would care so much about us knowing about
Mm,
gravitational
Nancy Pelosi.
propulsion and shit
I
that
think
they would
Find her
be
mothership.
whacking these people if not the
I-
government?
I think
Mossad?
if
That's
you
still a
want me to do I think that it's a possibility? Yes, but do I think that the evidence that we have currently right now points to anything like that? No,
But then who else?
I don't.
Who
Well,
else would care about us knowing that information?
A lot of these people probably are within the same friend groups, right? And who knows? There could be psychedelics going in. They all could be tripping acid and just walking out of their house. I mean, if they all work at the same places, right? Know the same people, there could be something going on within that community. I mean, that shit happens in all kinds of professions, man. All kinds of professions, from Wall Street to military service members to people working at McDonald's. I mean, there are things that happen to people, and there are substances that make it into circles. And there's some really bad ones out there, man. Remember when bath salts hit?
And there's
When
death cults. Don't forget about those.
I mean,
I
then
know,
you have
yeah.
just massively depressed people that are working on nuclear weaponry, not nuclear power, but nuclear weaponry. Like people in the Manhattan Project, when they saw Hiroshima and Nagasaki go off and the destruction that it made, a lot of those people fell into a crazy wave of depression because they had no idea that what they were doing was actually that bad until they saw it happen. Yes, it was theorized to be that bad, but to actually see the devastation that it made is terrible. You don't know what these people are working on. It could be something as simple as a substance abuse problem. It could be something as a guilty conscience where they're working on something that really isn't sitting well with them, where they're not able to talk about it because of NDAs, because of, legal issues. And instead of sitting there and just letting it devour them from the inside out, they'd say, no, fuck this, chucking deuces and pulling the trigger. I hate to say it like that, but I mean,
I hear you, and we just hear me out on that.
I think
Typically,
it's an
when
Occam's
it comes-
razor kind of thing, man.
Typically, when it comes to like a substance abuse thing in circles, we've already established that these people were widespread and had minimal contact with each other, if anything.
Yeah,
They're
but
not really
but they
working on
also
things
don't
like nuclear
they-
bombs. They're doing gravitational propulsion mostly, right?
A lot of this stuff
So-
is related, and they work within similar sectors to each other. I mean, ask Jake, right? In the military, or at least in the Navy, you could spend 3 years of your time in Norfolk, then get shipped across the country. Then you can go from Norfolk to California to Oklahoma to a recruiting station out in Kansas. And just because you are in physically different locations, the fact that they're all working on similar things, similar mechanics, all topics that work together somehow. Nuclear power and anti-gravity, that's been married together for a very long time in theoretics, right? So just because, 2 people at Los Alamos died and then 2 people at JPL died, doesn't mean that they didn't work together at some time. Didn't mean that they didn't know people that worked together. Didn't
True,
mean that they
right.
didn't have that. I mean,
Right, but I'm not saying that that's not a thing. What I'm saying is, like, typically when you see like rings of substance abuse, these are people who have consistent contact with each other. Just look at the most simple thing, like marijuana, right? You don't start smoking marijuana because you saw Snoop Dogg on the TV doing it. You start
Hell yeah,
smoking
I did.
marijuana because your fucking buddy came to your house and offered you. He was like, "You want to smoke a joint?" Because somebody offered him a joint. Because somebody offered that guy a joint. Like, okay, maybe you're an outlier. I'm just saying it's the frequency of these deaths and whatever it's too much, too close. They don't have consistent contact. Maybe they had contact, but contact is minimal between these people. It's not consistent. It's widespread.
you don't know that. You
I
don't
thought
know
we
that.
established that in the last several episodes.
Physical location does not mean that they did not have contact with each other. Just because they were there that weekend doesn't mean that they were staying there. A lot of these people lived in Albuquerque. Okay, there was 5 or 6 of them now that lived in Albuquerque and just walked off into the desert.
Mhm.
That sounds like a trip to me. I mean, a lot of people get high on something that they don't know what they're taking and just walk out and never come back. I mean, that is known. right?
So you think?
And no, hey,
Am I
I
misunderstanding the last couple of episodes? Because I thought we really talked about like I'm pretty sure I directly asked at one point how much contact they had with each other. Like how often were these people talking? And I'm fairly certain that we established that this wasn't a group of people who was tight knit and talking together frequently. That if they were communicating, it was minimal because of their fields.
I don't remember that specific thing getting brought up. Could it have? Yeah, possibly. I also don't know that information. All I know is the geographical locations of where they were either found dead or went missing. That's
Okay.
all I know about.
Were they
So
working for the same company?
a lot of them were Los Alamos, JPL. I think 7 of them fell underneath those 2 companies alone, or those
I'd be
2
interested to
locations
know
alone.
if they were working on the same project.
Well, that's what I'm
it-
saying is a lot of this stuff is segmented, right? Where they work on the same project, but they work in different locations. I mean, like to make an airplane or to make a space shuttle, you know, like the engines are made in Pratt and Whitney in Connecticut, and then the airframe is made in some bumfuck nowhere, Arkansas, right? And then the OBOG system, the onboard oxygen generation system, is made in California. You know, like all these things get made in separate areas, and then when it's ready to put all the pieces together, then they ship it to one location for assembly. You know, and it's the same thing with your car. It's the same thing with your fucking microwave, right? It's I would find it, and I take a sidestep here. I don't want to say that you asked for something that it could be. I said drugs. Not that I believe it's drugs. Okay.
Right.
That's I think it's probably more or less along the lines, like if I had to actually put weight behind something, it's something along the lines of a mental health issue. Right. Now there was a couple incidences where like the guy showed up on Homeboy's property and took his life. Right. Like we have the killer. We know that there wasn't a stalking issue with it. Like that's unfortunate, right? That seemed like that was a crazy person. I'm just listing off possibilities other than our government killing people because of the study that they're in. Now, I will say that there is a lot to this story that is unsettling. The fact that we are this close to disclosure and people of this profession are getting off, whether it's by self-harm or not, that's strange, very strange. And I do believe that somebody should look into it, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just saying that if you look at this and you look at it from a point of view of being like, hey, let's look at this of what it most likely is, weird black programs killing scientists doesn't necessarily seem like the best answer. It seems like an answer that should be looked at, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be the answer, if you know what I mean.
I hope that we're this close to disclosure because the Pentagon still hasn't released any of the UFO footage that they said they're going to.
Facts.
So it's kind of
Well,
frustrating,
we got to
you know?
line something else up for them to distract us with, and then once they have that, then they'll give us the disclosure because then they'll have something new to dangle in front of us.
CJ, like I've said, man, I like to play devil's advocate. I like to bring up the what about this, what about that, and to play devil's advocate against myself. One fun thing to think about is, or I wouldn't say fun thing, but something to think about along the lines of evidence for some really weird, shady shit going on is if you wanted to control a narrative specifically about UFO disclosure or UAP disclosure, you would want to get rid of everybody that can say that what you're putting out is incorrect. So let's say they came out and said, yeah, they have anti-gravitical technology. Well, if it's really not, right, and you wanted to control that narrative, what would you do? You got to get rid of everybody that can prove you wrong, right? And that part, it makes sense. But with all the evidence that we have right now, it doesn't seem to be that. Maybe one or two, maybe all of them. I don't know. But if I had to guess, it's just a really sad group of circumstances. But it's something that we talk about, right? And we talk about UFOs a lot. And it's natural for our show to talk about this kind of stuff and bring up the possibility. And I think it's worth talking about because I believe that although I think that it's probably not the case, I would love, let me recorrect that. I don't want to say I would love. I still think it's good for us to exercise the thought that it could be and to at least bring the question forward. Have someone else prove us wrong. Have someone else prove us right. Right? If nobody's going to ask the question and bring it forward, it's because of conversations like this that it is now being looked at by the government, and it's being talked about on every mainstream media account because conversations like this are happening on little nothing podcasts. And that's good. And it should apply to a lot of other aspects of life too. A lot of other aspects of life.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we need an agency other than a government-run faction to be looking into it.
I agree too. I do. All right, Jake, tell me I'm wrong.
Wrong.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Is that it? Is that all we have? Or did you have more?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that this guy, David Wilcock committing suicide like that is terrible. But
It is very.
but that one doesn't appear to be quite like the one we talked about last week, where it was, hey, I'm not suicidal. This person called 911 and said, hey, I'm sorry, you gotta like deal with this or whatever. That's a little bit different. That's just hey, I'm gonna say don't do it, and then next day, I don't know, his a bill came out and he's like, I'm not gonna deal with this anymore. If his financial issues or whatever. I don't know. I do think that there's something to it. I don't think it's like a mass kill-off type thing. I'm not certain exactly what to think. And I think that but I do think that when it comes to the investigation that, it was kind of funny hearing, so the FBI is going to investigate why the FBI is killing people. That is a funny thing to think about. But I mean,
I need Jeff back in here. I need people on my side. This is crazy.
I mean, it's at least someone's going to do it, I guess, versus it seems like so many things are just so crazy and that everyone's like, well, on to the next thing. So I don't know. But I'm not really going to put any weight into any sort of a discovery happening or anything coming out that's like earth shattering besides the FBI is going to be like, well, we don't know, oh, one of those things, weird. So
trust us, we looked into it.
Those guys killed themselves.
We gave ourselves a really good mid-year bonus and we did some crazy investigating over the last 17 hours and we've concluded that we don't know. So
now I will say, out of all the cases that we've talked about, the Amy Eskridge one that we talked about last week,
right,
is by far the strangest of them all.
That's the most sus for sure.
I definitely think that there is some really, really strange things going on there, including foul play.
Moida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the Wilcox one, I unfortunately just think that this is an unfortunate situation where the guy just decided like, hey, I've had enough. It sucks. It does. But the Amy Eskridge one, that one, it's been a couple years now. But that one is definitely somebody really needs to look into that particular case from my point of view. All right, you guys ready for the outro?
This is a really suicide-heavy episode. This sucked.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, demonetized for sure.
Well, I hope so, yeah.
All right, that's it for tonight's episode. In quick hits, Jay Stratton, 16-year director of the government's UAP program, saying he has seen non-human craft and non-human beings, with a memoir coming this year that promises to disclose all that can lawfully be disclosed. 2 X-class solar flares this morning from the same active sunspot region, radio blackouts, and that region rotating toward Earth. Avi Loeb's new paper linking 3-eye atlases unexplained acceleration to its 3 symmetrical jets, with the interstellar object now heading towards Jupiter before leaving our solar system forever. An AI discovering new laws of physics by analyzing particle data without being told what to look for. A Class A Bigfoot sighting from 2 overnight workers in West Virginia, and Seth Breedlove's Bennington Triangle documentary dropping in a few days. In briefing 1, we went to Mars, 3 independent lines of evidence in the same 10-day window, the most diverse organic chemistry ever found on another planet, including a molecule structurally similar to a DNA precursor, the mineral signature of an ancient lake bed where microbes would thrive on Earth, and biological-looking spiderweb structures and egg-like nodules that 2 different rovers found on 2 different locations that planetary scientists say they currently cannot explain. None of it confirms life. All of it says we're getting closer to knowing something. In briefing 2, Trump signed an executive order fast-tracking psychedelic drug research with Joe Rogan in the Oval Office, $50 million in federal funding, a pathway for Ibogaine under the right to try law, FDA priority vouchers for 3 psychedelics potentially coming next week, veterans at the center of it, and of course there is the IRH angle, which is that these are the same substances that researchers studying consciousness, contact experience, and anomalous cognition have been connecting to UAP encounter descriptions for years. And in the deep dive, the scientist story reached a new inflection point. The FBI formally announced it is spearheading the investigation. House Oversight Chair James Comer, who called it a crazy conspiracy theory just days ago, launched a full committee probe with briefings demanded by April 27th. NASA said it is cooperating with relevant agencies. David Wilcock, one of the most prominent media voices in the UAP disclosure community, died on April 20th. His family confirmed depression and financial debt. His final words on YouTube were about people disappearing and scientists going missing. Trump's timeline expires this weekend. Comer's deadline is this Monday. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please subscribe to Infinite Rabbit Hole wherever you get your podcasts, leaving us a rating and review. It genuinely helps more people find the show. You can find us on Infinite Rabbit Hole, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And if you're on YouTube and haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do. 2 more things. May 9th, I'll be at Capcom in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Use code RABBITHOLE for 10% off. And on May 4th, my book, UF Elmwood, goes live on Amazon. Links in the description, and I'd love for you to check it out. We're back next week. The FBI briefings will have happened, potentially. Trump's timeline will have run out. We'll find out what the investigation actually found. Until then, keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, and remember the truth is out there. You just have to know where to look. I'm Jeremy Sosha, and we'll see you in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
They're killing our scientists. Goodbye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast. If you're looking for more of our stuff, head on over to infiniterabbithole.com, where you can find links to all the podcast players that we are available on, and even our video platforms such as TikTok and YouTube. While you're there, make sure to check out all the links for our socials and hit that follow so you know when all the new stuff from our podcast comes out. And until next time, travelers, we'll see you right here in the next fork in the path of the Infinite Rabbit Hole. Goodbye.